Assalamu alaikum. Is the meeting on?
Walaikum salam. Yeah, we've been waiting. Oh, I see someone from DIC about to speak.
Oh, alaikum assalam. I wasn't gonna say anything. I just got the Zoom up. He's not here yet, but he should be here soon.
Yeah, that's what I was. So, thank you. Appreciate you, Rana.
Oh, there he is. You're so welcome. Hey.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونستهديه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا فمن يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله ثم أما بعد السلام عليكم. Hello, Mr. Rogers. Take off my sweater here, slip off the shoes, put on the comfortable shoes. These are the comfortable ones. How you doing? Great honor, great privilege as always to facilitate these conversations. On my way into class, somebody asked me, how I was, and mashallah, we praise Allah in all situations, but the situation in Palestine is quite concerning. Situation in Palestine is quite concerning. So I just request that everybody make dua, that this dictatorial occupation, this apartheid-like occupation will come to an end, inshallah. And for the safety and security of all of the people, in Gaza. I think that they just announced that they're doing a full siege, so no electricity, no food, no water, to the entire region, to the entire Gaza Strip. So, you can expect things to escalate very quickly. Because there's already elderly people in need of medical attention. This will probably result in a human toll that is, catastrophic, to say the least. So, it's a situation that we should all be watching very closely. And even if we haven't been in the past, very, very political, just surveying our options in terms of what we can do, how we can raise our voices. Because of course, unsurprisingly, America is going to give Israel the right to defend itself. This is the line that, they've been repeating for 50 years. You know what I'm saying? Regurgitation. So, but in terms of looking at the root cause of the problem, no new or original solutions are being posed. Really to talk about, dealing with this, illegal occupation and, the increase in settlements, mostly in the West Bank, but also in Gaza. So, it's very volatile, situation, very volatile situation. But alhamdulillah, this is a class that we have, dedicated to talking about the names and attributes of God. And the names that we're discussing today are Al-Qayyum and Al-Qayyum. Al-Hayy, God is living. Ibn Al-Qayyum al-Jawziyah, the famous scholar and student of Ibn Taymiyyah, he said, this is the primary attribute of God. height that God is living. That God is living and does not die. When the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away, Sayyidina Umar was in a state of delirium, couldn't believe it, and it said something about his emotional reliance upon the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that for Umar, the idea that life could be lived without the Prophet was inconceivable. There is no life. So Umar actually drew his sword and he said, the Messenger of Allah has gone to be with his Lord, but he's coming back. And if anybody says he's dead, I'm killing him. Anyone who says he's dead, I'm separating his head from his body. Sayyidina Abu Bakr, on the other hand, went into his daughter's home. This is where the Prophet expired, peace be upon him. Kissed the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam on his forehead and said, you were pure in life and you're pure in death. He came out of the house, spoke to this assembly of people that started gathering in the courtyard of Masjid al-Nabawi, right in front of the house of Aisha radiallahu anha. And Abu Bakr said those famous words, anybody who worshipped Muhammad, no, Muhammad is dead. But if you worship Allah, know that God is living and cannot die. God is living and does not die. And for us, this is very important, because even in the Rabi' al-Awwal, this is the month in which the Prophet was born, alayhi salatu wassalam, there have been many mawaleed, many celebrations of the Prophet, alayhi salatu wassalam. Many people have composed verse in praise of the Prophet, alayhi salatu wassalam. All of this is something from our tradition. However, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is not an object of worship for us. The Prophet alayhi salatu wasallam is not divine to us in his constitution. He's divine in his mission. So it's not a misnomer to say divine prophet, but he is not essentially different than we are in his humanity. The Messenger of Allah alayhi salatu wasallam is a human being. And this is fundamental to our understanding of faith. That even though we esteem the Prophet, even though we celebrate the Prophet, and I understand that sentiment, for me, it's two separate sentiments for two separate occasions. I understand the sentiment of people who say, don't say the Prophet is just a man. Because in saying so, you're reducing his stature. That's like saying a ruby is just a stone, or a diamond is just a rock. Try getting away with that at the jeweler. I understand that sentiment, but I also understand the sentiment that the Prophet was just a man, meaning not just a man in any way, reducing his the grandeur of his character or nearness to God, but he's not God. He's not God. He's just a man in the sense he's not God, because God does not expire. This is what is meant by Al-Hayy. Al-Qayyum also said, radiallahu anhu, that every attribute of God comes from that Hayy. So we talk about he's seeing, he's knowing, he's hearing, he's omnipotent, he's all of that comes from the fact that he is living. He is living. And there is, to my mind, something very immediate about focusing on God's attribute of life. Because sometimes we see things happening in the world, And just for a split moment, we might think, is God really in charge of this cone? Is God really in charge of the created order? Are we really to attribute what we're seeing to God's will? Or is this something else? Sometimes you see things like that, and just for perhaps a scintilla of a moment for the believer, she thinks, wait. For you to remember, God is al-Hayy, God is living, God does not die. God does not, being God is not a source of fatigue for God. Like, man, this is exhausting to me. I think I'm going to take a moment off, take the day off. I'm tired, man. I'm tired. لا تأخذه سنة ولا نوم. Allah is not overtaken by sleep or fatigue. He says, God is living. And I think that it's very important, especially for people dealing with personal trials, to remember the God that we call upon is living, a living God, not a dormant God, a living God. Many of the, something else to be understood from al-Hayy is that Allah is fa'al, Allah is active, effective, efficient. Many of the founders of the United States were deists. Thomas Jefferson was a famous deist. These were people who recognized the philosophical necessity of a category of an uncaused causer, meaning it's kind of a philosophical necessity to believe that something came from something, right? This is, to believe that something has always existed is counterintuitive. That's just, for anyone to believe that this Hewlett-Packard computer has always been here, that's counterintuitive. It's like, no, it's because there's nothing in the experience of the human being that would confirm something material being self-subsisting. Like, no. Everything that is must be caused by something. This was actually the Catholic scholar St. Thomas Aquinas. This was his favorite argument for the existence of God. That everything that is changing is being changed by something. Right? Everything that changes is being changed by something. Right? So if you have something here that's changing, there must be something here that's causing it to change. And then this is changing, there must be something here that causes it to change, right? But so think about it like almost like this labyrinth of rooms. If there's a light in the center chamber, it could be coming from here, and that light could be coming from here, and that light could be coming from here. But where's the original light? Right? Because if not, you have just an infinitude of lights, and that's counterintuitive. So when we talk about deism, it's like, yeah, maybe there's a creator. There's a creator. That's a philosophical necessity, right? But I don't believe that God ever interacts with creation. I don't believe in any miracles. I don't believe there's any efficiency to prayer. I don't believe in revelation. I don't believe in prophets. I don't believe in any of that. This was Isaac Newton's divine clockmaker. Anyone who likes horology, I love watches. If you ever, open, a mechanical watch, you see all of the cogs and the gears, and the watch is running, right? And right? Isaac Newton surmised that God was like that divine clockmaker, that he created creation, but then stepped back and let it just kind of, happen according to the natural phenomena of the cosmos. That's God. No, Al-Hayy implies that God is not distant, God is not dormant, God is not absent, God is not ineffective, but God is present, living. God is to be solicited, appealed to, called upon, engaged with directly. God is closer to you than your jugular vein. Right? He's living, the true and living God. You know, in the English language, and English, mashallah, is I think a very powerful vehicle for talking about Allah. The English words I love most when referring to God are true and living. We serve the true and living God, the God that is alive. And it's interesting that whenever the prophets in the Quran would contrast fake deities, things that were worshipped in error, they would always depict them as dead. So when Ibrahim, you know, his people, they go out for some holy festival, and he destroys the idols, except for the largest idol. And then he hangs the pickaxe on the largest idol. And when the people return questioning, who did this? Ibrahim. There's a young man. People call him Ibrahim. Right? And his father. Who did this? Did you do this? أَرَاغِبٌ أَنْتَ عَنْ آلِهَتِي يَا Ibrahim? You don't like my idols, Ibrahim? Ibrahim said, what? Ask the big one. Like, ask. Why don't you ask the big idol who destroyed the smaller idols? And they said, what? You know these idols can't talk. So why would you worship something that is dead? Why would you worship something that is dead? Because the true God is a living God. You see? So Al-Hayy, this is one of those, you know, if a person subscribes to, you know, systematic theology, this is always one of those 13 cardinal attributes of God. His life, Al-Hayy, Al-Qayyum, that there's nothing before him, right? Baqa, that he remains. This is those cardinal attributes of God. Al-Hayy, the living. Then the second name that we wanted to review today is Al-Qayyum. Al-Qayyum is related to Hayy. That's why you often hear them mentioned in tandem. Al-Hayyul Qayyum. Qayyum means self-subsisting. This was the name that everybody was talking about during the pandemic. Because during the pandemic, human beings were introduced to the fact that we are creatures of utter contingency. My life is contingent upon so much. You know, I mean, first and foremost, air, oxygen, right? Right. I mean, sometimes I think, how can any human being be arrogant? Your life depends on a chemical element being present. And if you put somebody in a vault, right, hermetically sealed, and that element is not present, they would die. I can't breathe. My life is contingent upon so much. They say that the average human being can survive for 3 weeks without food. SubhanAllah. That's crazy. And 3 days without water. But only 3 minutes without air. 3 minutes, somebody's drowning, 3 minutes, probably over. Only 3 minutes without air. We are creatures of contingency. Yes, we're alive. I would describe myself in Arabic as ala qayd al-hayat. I'm alive. But it's not self-subsisting life. It's life that's contingent on a lot of externalities. food, water, shelter, and even the quality of my life changes according to those externalities. Now, my life gets bad if I'm arguing with my wife. Quality of life is going down, man. You know, this is the opposite of Al-Qayyum. Steve, I'm really trying to teach this attribute. I think you're laughing, but I'm serious. You have to, man arafa nafsahu arafa rabbah. Whoever knows herself knows her Lord. Look at how your life is contingent on so many externalities, so many little details that affect how you live. You see people grumpy. What's the matter? Haven't been sleeping good. My bed, I need to replace it. Something like that can affect how you live, how you feel. Wanted to go to the fight with one of my fight buddies. Let's go to the fight. Got a problem with my neck. Can't go. This is what it means to be human. Right? We're creatures of utter contingency. Something small can happen, big effect. Al-Qayyum, there is nothing that impacts God in that way. That's Al-Qayyum. His existence is self-subsisting. Right? It is not based on any contingency. There's a very interesting point of practicality in this name, Al-Qayyum. If you look in some good books of fiqh, they will all mention at the beginning, you must understand, none of your righteousness increases God in glory. It does not increase God in might. It does not increase God at all. Nothing that you do God's being God is not contingent upon your worship. It's not that God becomes this is a big one for, I think, people in the West. Because of course, with this kind of the humanistic perspective offers that what man created God. It is really man's ignorance of, man and woman's ignorance of their origin, their fear of death. All of this, in a sense, creates God. But if they weren't like that, there would be no God. No. Khata. Not true. God does not need anyone to acknowledge him in order for him to be God. Right? So they mentioned when you worship, you don't do this. It's like you don't do this. Like this doesn't add anything to Allah. And when you disobey God, nothing about God's, nothing about God's magnificence is decreased through our disobedience. Right? Which is not the way we typically understand those things in a worldly context. If somebody is saying, like, for instance, if somebody is bragging about their spouse, I have the best this in the world, best that in the world, my wife, husband, best, but then they cheat on them. Somebody might think, well, how great are they? Right? Could just be that you're unscrupulous and immoral, and they are great. That's a possibility too. But somebody might think, well, if they're like that, and you're willing to betray their trust, how great are they? God is not decreased in anything by anyone's disobedience of him. Because God exists beyond contingency. So they say, therefore, when reading the law, we must understand everything in it is for our benefit. Everything in it is for our benefit because none of it is for God's benefit. Not your prayer, not commercial law, none of it benefits God. It's all for you. Right? And this should inform the way we kind of practice our deen. Allah's Al-Qayyum. He doesn't, he's self-subsisting. And I think that I quoted Imam Ghazali earlier when I said, "Man arafa nafsa arafa rabba." Whoever knows herself, knows himself, knows his Lord, knows her Lord. That when you think about how absent these two qualities are from us, Al-Hayy and Al-Qayyum, true life. And we're not talking about life that has a beginning and life that will have an ending, because we're alive. But our lives are temporal lives, and they change. You go from the barzakh to the realm of the living, to the realm of the dead, to akhir. We exist in those phases. Allah does not have phases. I was talking with a brother this weekend, and I said, SubhanAllah, I was reading something, and they said, life is not the opposite of death, right? Birth is the opposite of death, right? That you existed in some form, and then through birth, you come into a different realm. And I always say, imagine if a fetus could talk and somebody said, there's something after this. He said, no, this is it. Does it get any better? I couldn't imagine anything after this. And then 9 months, there's an event, there's a whole new, right? And the birth canal is kind of, of course we know cesarean section and, but it is the passageway into a new, completely new experience. Then you're here for, a number of days. We're all just, a stack of numbered days. And then death is the outro. Birth is the intro into the dunya. Death is the outro out of the dunya. Just like that. And the most interesting thing, parallel between birth and death, is that it doesn't happen. Neither one happens according to our mashi'ah, our individual will. I was not sitting here and said, you know what, June 30th, I'm out of here. Didn't ask to be born, not gonna ask to die. Didn't ask to be born. I'm here. See, this is human life. Right? Phases. Barzakh, dunya, akhir. Allah's existence, his life does not have phases. Right? Even the way we change in the dunya, right? You age. Now, man, I look at every mirror that I walk past. Look at me, man, I'm getting old, man. Every mirror. No, I know this sounds like I'm being facetious, but I'm being serious. How to engage with this name, the living. Even your life, you change. Right? You can go, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says what? مَنْ نُعَمِّرُهُ نُنَكِّسْهُ فِي الْخَلْقِ. In Yasin, whoever we give a long life, we reverse them in their creation. So that after attaining, a status of full strength, they become weak and enfeebled. And it's really, it's remarkable. It's remarkable. Sometimes I look and I think, man, I remember as a kid playing basketball all day. I wasn't any good, but I thought I was good. If I turned my ankle, I could literally just take my shoe, tighten the shoe, and play another 5 or 6 games. Now, I turn my ankle, I'm out for like 6, 7 weeks. And I'm talking about, back then, it was like we had a lot of pride. You had to you turn the ankle? Yeah, I just turned my ankle, man. Hold on. Slow mo, bro. Here I come, bro. Hold on. Let me just tighten up my shoes, man. Now, no shame. I'm out. No, sir. I'm out. Somebody get me. I'm out. I'm through. Even my life, there's nothing unchanging about it, right? Sometimes if you just think about that and then think, Allah is Al-Hayy, there's nothing changing. Allah does not age. It's not like something about his ability is weakening with time or increasing with time. Just like, they say in discussion of Allah's name, Al-Hayy or Al-Alim, Allah does not increase in knowledge, or Al-Khabir. There's no new knowledge. It's not like, what? They just indicted Trump, subhanAllah. Whoa. Allah does not increase in knowledge, nor does Allah decrease in knowledge. Because those are not, and that's what Ibn Al-Qayyum was talking about. Those are not the qualities of his life. Doesn't increase in knowledge or increase in capacity or decrease in capacity. That is the quality of your life. Your ankles get weaker. Your hair turns gray. Zaki, that used to be black, man. When I first met you, that was black. Yeah, when I first met you, that was black. Yeah, it was black. It don't turn back black. Yeah. not through any natural means. You know what I mean? It doesn't turn back black. Everything about your life, it changes. Everything. Your eyesight weakens. So I pass my glasses. Everything. Allah's life does not change. I just thinking about that is like, subhanAllah. Subhanallah. That was the reaction I had to learning Ayatul Kursi. La ta'khuduhu sinatun wa la nawm. God does not get tired, right? Every creature has some way that it restores itself, has some kind of repose. God does not get tired. Sometimes I think to myself, subhanAllah, somebody called me this weekend and they were having a personal crisis, some personal issue. And I thought about what was happening in Palestine, and I thought, subhanAllah, I'm sure people out there calling on Allah, asking for God's help, on both sides of the conflict. And I thought, Allah is the God of these major world events and the God of this person's personal crisis at the same time. Right? These major world events that are happening and people are calling on Allah and waiting for Allah's decision. And then this person not thinking about Israel or Palestine or Gaza, is just thinking about something happening with their spouse. And that's how they're engaging Allah. And both are absolutely true expressions of who the true and living God is. He is the God of that. He is the God of this too. This is not insignificant either. It's because it's not something of global consequence. That is God's life. Sometimes, I guess what I was saying about Imam Ghazali's quote was that if you think about yourself and your limitations, and then think about the unlimited nature of God vis-a-vis those limitations, you become filled with wonder. How even if you could give your attention to one or two things and multitask, that probably would do it. I'm consumed at that point. It's like I got, this is the most that I can do in a 24-hour day. I did this, I did that. That's it. God's doing everything all the time without cessation. So it's really something to think about. It's really remarkable. Yes, somebody. Yeah. Oh, man, عرف نفسه عرف رب. That's the Ghazali.
Your inability to comprehend.
Yes.
And realizing our deficiency in our own nature, and acknowledging that a lot of this is beyond our capacity to be part of comprehension.
Every time I'm looking at life or the world, and things just seem inexplicable to me. Why is this happening? Like today, I'm obsessed with the situation in Gaza. So I'm listening to the news, and I just said to myself, don't judge me, man. I'm letting you into my private conscience for the purpose of illustration. I just said, man, what? Allah, why don't you help your people? Right? I mean, there are places being decimated where your name is being recited, your book is being recited. People are praying to you, following your messenger. Why don't you help your people? Allah, help your people, right? And then the news reporter was just displaying the carnage in Gaza, and I was just like, I felt really down just looking at it, right? And then I thought to myself, I said, whenever things in creation are not happening the way that I would like them to happen, it's proof that God is over me. That I'm not the one making the decisions. Because if I were, there's a whole lot of stuff that would be happening and some stuff that wouldn't be. I mean, I know Basil Evans would be rich, right? And healthy for a very long time, right? I'm not the one making the calls, right? I'm not the one making the decisions. So whenever I look at creation and I can't see kind of the rhyme and reason, like you're thinking about everything you know from Revelation, trying to put some scriptural framework on this to make it, I come back to exactly what you said, Dr. Summer, that because I can't, it's proof that this is the will of a higher, I can't figure this out. I can't understand this. I can't make sense of this. I can't very easily explain this. The only thing you're left to do is say, Subhanallah, glory to Allah. And that's why, whenever someone talks to me about theodicy, people who have difficulty accepting the existence of evil, like why would God allow evil? I always say, we think. This is, I think, probably one of our most juvenile assumptions. Because I think it grossly,
Assalamualaikum, can you repeat the question, Brother Ubay, for we can only hear Brother Ubay. We can't.
Really quickly before we go up, the point I was making was that when people are struggling with theodicy, I think one of the places that we grossly underestimate human arrogance is that, let's say God was just an extension of our rationality, meaning things that I think should be the way I think things should be. God is just the divine endorser of my rationality. I think we would find no use for a God like that. Meaning, if I got it all figured out, what I need you for? And I think it would lead to just as much kufr. If there was no evil in the world, if there was nothing that made you say, okay, I don't understand this. You know, okay, well, I mean, if I understand it all, if I got it all figured out, why am I worshiping you? Perhaps I should be worshiping me if I have it all. But the fact that you don't is what leads to this mysterium tremendum, to use a Latin term, this great ineffable feeling of awe before God and the will of God. But we'll come back and finish after prayer, inshallah. Yeah, I man. Like, I mean, you should be going with that a long time ago. You looking real, you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Summer. Why did you tell me to go with the beer before they see the statement?
That made, but he also, he's had that kind of connect till now, it's really hard to do anything. Therapy. Along with this one, I'm from this. Along with this, I say with her.
Oh,
It was nice.
Well, but that one.
I was reading about each one.
Not much more at all.
I think it's not. A lot better. Okay. I don't know. No.
من الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين.
Capacity of loss with the cheese items in mind. And one of them have a good response. Yeah, that's why you know saying that sign first thing, okay. So I really worried about this, the most of the family in the period when school, for the American people, yeah. There's a fact. We're not responsible for whenever you move to back over. If it's so that they. Positive. It's about. It's a fun, lighthearted show. I'm not gonna say anything until we see. Because there's like books in it. My personality is I'm never going to be I'm happy to do that, I guess I'm like, it's too long, but want to get the point down. It's too long for a pretty good, yeah. Okay, so essentially it's about this girl who dies, and she's been off the beat from her. Very selfish, doesn't really care about anybody in the world, whatever. She's very find her. And she lays that. And they never promised they want to be right, but they are things. Now they read people, they all do kind of things in their life. Yes, we have I on here, she doesn't really and the biggest twist in the show is she have to do it in the place. So it's just like a full orchestrated thing with her biggest struggle and the crisis that we have. We have this moral crisis, this entire mental crisis, because the devils have associated simulation where they all have to go to the spot. So her was totally like 500 years. You know, that she's supposed to be. All this visit, and then how do people and points, right? Good. Now we like knowledge here actually finding part of it sometimes finding and something therefore not. And it's only time. Then we go and do the always so hard to do good. It was created by someone in supply chain. Yeah, literally. But it. I was wondering, what those were about creating the shows of how. You can watch it, but it is, no, it's the wrong thing about it. Yeah. Yeah. I'm not. You're not. Yeah, I'm not afraid of this one, not others. There's no people, I do there. I still have the video one. Why? I'm sicker, but that's. I mean, I'm not sicker. I'm not, I think it's, you kind of graduate from what must be part of your personality. Did you watch the, I haven't watched, I haven't heard, I was very ready to go generation, but I haven't watched. Yeah. I heard good things about it. I think it was more of, they're kind of interested in just being on the whole lot. And then I love looking for this. I know. And when I was like, again. They did happen, but yeah. I know a little bit. I don't know, just. No, I'm curious. Hey. I'm gonna be pretty good. Right, but there's always something different one nowadays, so love it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of like this is. Oh, you kind of remind me. Yeah, this one, It's fun. If I find something. Yeah.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Today we were discussing the two names of Allah, Al-Hayy and Al-Qayyum, the living, the self-subsisting. Are there any questions about this or about anything else? Yeah, probably should take Q&A until the end of class. Inshallah. Could be about this. Yes.
I feel, what is our like duty in those
Yeah, I think for us to try and try to be to be advocates for justice and to recognize the preciousness of human life, on both sides of the conflict, and I think reminding people that this, and we're talking by international law, illegal occupation is just not sustainable. It can't be sustained. It can't be sustained. And I think it's very easy, and it might be even, a very convenient way to justify brutality, to point at, what they did. And it's kind of like, okay, but in the chain of, causes, this is a secondary or tertiary cause. Let's deal with the root cause. But, sadly, I don't think very many people will do that. And then there's something about our bias as Westerners. And it's a strange thing, man. It's just something that exists within us. I haven't been able to put my finger on why, but we're more morally outraged by low-tech brutality than high-tech brutality. If something is like a person is beheaded on video, yeah, I mean, there's a certain grotesque shock value in that. But if a refugee camp is blown up by a remote control bomb, somehow people aren't as disturbed by that. And that's a strange, like, Western bias. It's like, low-tech brutality. So when they talk about, the video footage that has surfaced of the Hamas insurgents, somehow people are like, these are human animals. It's barbarism. Like when I saw the Israeli defense minister saying it's civility versus barbarism. This is why we're holding them under siege and we're gonna bomb them to smithereens. Now look, I'm no master of logic. I'm no master of logic. I mean, I took mentic once. I took logic. But you're equating their position to barbarism, your position to civility, and then talking about the human toll that this is going to exact on that population. That's the counterpoise to barbarism? No, there's a deep dissonance in the Western psyche. You see, and I think that must be challenged. And I think that we can do that as Muslims, especially American Muslims, talking about this cycle of occupation, repression, violence, and call the whole thing out. But this is what you get. It's a cycle. It's a cycle. And I think finding a way to say that with integrity is our task. But this is a cycle. It's very easy to, it's like when it's like when somebody has done something to really anger somebody. And I mean, what they did was like demonstrably wrong. And then the person responding, like in the presence of the sheikh or the imam, is like cursing because they're so mad. And the person that did said, look how you talk. Look at his life. Look at how he clown. Look how he act. Look how he act. It's so insincere and muzawwar. Like, it's so fake. Like, you know what happened, but you want to talk about my language? You know what's going on here. You know what this is. You know what this has been for the last 56 years. You know what this is. But we want to talk about the how. Yeah.
The words are being penetrated that don't know about the situation. The word that he's being penetrated.
Unprovoked.
If you knew the situation, it's now.
It's never unprovoked. This is a cycle.
We did it in the westernized.
In a psyche. That's what I'm saying. It becomes like this thing where it's like, bro, we can still condemn the violence and still say the solution is not to bomb Gaza back to the Stone Age. And even, Gaza is already in the Stone Age. It's an open air prison. To even say that it had infrastructure, it had no infrastructure. So what do you, I will say, man, that, for me, just as a religious person, this is very disappointing, man. It's very disappointing. Like this is, just as a religious person, it's just like this is the best that we can come up with as religious people. Like this is the best we got. I'm talking about on both sides. This is the best. This is the best we got. That you're gonna bomb Gaza back to the Stone Age. You're going to hold the people under siege, starve them. And we're talking about a nuclear power, highly advanced, industrialized society, engaging in an illegal occupation, supporting settlements being built in the West Bank and Gaza. This is it. That's just, come on, man.
The hardest part too, the person knowing that my taxes, knowing that I just by geographical of my birth, geographically, my life. Hey, there's such atrocities that.
Absolutely. 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 This is, I'm a direct financial contributor to this, man. And then, and when you think about it, for me, for me,
Like there's dealing for me.
But for me, I don't know, man. Sometimes it's like a triple smack in the face for Black America. It's like you'll hear about, Congress passing some bill to give billions to Ukraine. Then now there's billions on the table for the Venezuelan migrants. May God bless them and help them. And then when our community says we could use some billions, we couldn't. We couldn't do that. You know what I'm saying? Like, what? Now, of course, there's going to be billions for Israel now.
There's 30 billion.
30 billion a year. When instead we say, man, can we get some of that for public education? Oh yeah, we could. How about healthcare? Oh, we could. How about higher education? Oh, we couldn't do that. That's just impractical.
There's even two Black women who created a fund to support Black businesses, and they're in court now because someone's saying it's unconstitutional to have a fund that only supports Black business. They said it's against the American way or something. So now they're
no. I saw that story and I read that story. It's against the American way. So it's just a sad state of affairs, man. God knows where we're headed, man. God knows where we're headed. But yeah, I think calling out the hypocrisy, because I think coming on the heels of what happened in Ukraine, it's very interesting that Russia is depicted as what? An occupying force. During Wimbledon, during tennis matches, they won't even put a Russian player's flag on the screen. Remember, one year they couldn't. Your country is an aggressive, occupying force. You're ostracized by the international community. For Israel, and this is garbage. This is nonsense. Even if you go back to the 1957 kind of agreement, everybody knows those borders are being violated every day. Everybody knows the occupation is illegal. So at some point, it's like, but herein I think lies another issue, man. When you look at, when I was in Dearborn which is, a small part of Lebanon. Um, There's a part of it is in Lebanon, the other part is in Yemen, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? I was in Denver over the weekend for a conference. And of course, there, all the restaurants, people watching Jazeera, they're not watching CNN. And it's interesting, man. I saw, footage from from the front line of, Palestinians fighting. And for the first time, it occurred to me, because of what's happening in Ukraine. I said, for 20 years, right, I've never allowed myself to identify with the Palestinians because, well, I've allowed myself to identify with them, but I'm so worried about my religion being depicted as terroristic, violent, hostile, barbaric, that we almost felt an urge just to disassociate. No, that's, we see that Islam, no, it's not. And for the first time, I said to myself, if they were showing the same footage I saw, I didn't see, any German tattoo artist displayed in the back of the truck with a young man spitting on her. I didn't see that image until later, but I just saw an image of people fighting, and of course, it is not a religious issue, right? It's an ethnic, issue, but the people fighting are Muslim, so they're saying, "Oh my God!" As they're engaging. And I said, were this footage of any other country living under occupation defending itself against illegal occupation, I would feel some pride at what they were doing. Meaning, like, if that footage I saw was just Ukrainians fighting against Russia, the same footage,
Right.
you would feel some empathy, sympathy, identification with them. Why is it different? Because they're Muslim, and we're so engaged in what? People not seeing Islam as violent, people not seeing Islam, that we wouldn't allow ourselves to identify with them in that way. And I realized in my heart, not anything, I've never said anything against Palestinians in my career. And I've said much in support of them. But I knew that in my heart, I was more concerned in my heart with, like, the reputation of Islam. That was more my project as an American Muslim. And I recognize, man, 20 years, man, I haven't offered the kind of support that I should have offered. Not so much in what I say, but in what I feel. You know what I mean? It's almost like, nah, man, because if it were anywhere else, a country that was occupied illegally, and you saw them fighting just to defend themselves, you wouldn't feel ashamed. You wouldn't say, "Oh, this is."
So the image that it creates, that's also created in American history that has always combated Islam.
Yeah, of course. Of course. So, so I guess I'm just saying, man, look, all a spade a spade. If an occupation is illegal, whether it's in Ukraine or the West Bank or Gaza, it's an illegal occupation.
No matter where it is,
It's an illegal occupation. The fact that some people are not going to accept this as a fait accompli shouldn't be surprising. It shouldn't be, like, I mean, again, we condemn the violence because I think I'd like to see some solution reached by diplomatic means. But if a person comes into my house and occupies it,
I'll ask them to leave first.
what do you expect? And then what would you expect to happen?
Right.
What was your expectation? No, what was your expectation? No, I mean, like, what's your expectation? What choice do you come into my home and occupy? What's your expectation here?
You got people from people from different viewpoints not acknowledging that simple notion.
That's the
Not acknowledging that has to happen. I don't know where, as you are, doesn't matter. As if somebody comes into your home and won't leave. At first, you'll be known. Oh, this person probably has a problem. You want some lemonade and some cookies, but by 6 o'clock, you gotta get out. You know, you're there for 3 weeks, you're not gonna be doing that. You know? So, I mean, it's not.
you got, yeah, no, so, you know, like, it's like, look, let's call it what it is, man. That's what I'm saying, call it what it is. It's like, if the occupation is illegal, and it is, the UN recognizes it as an illegal occupation. It's an illegal occupation. What do you expect to happen? What's supposed to happen? And so, you know, I'm just saying all of that to say, and I want to make it home tonight. I won't get into trouble now. You know what I mean? I'll make it home tonight now. You know, but you know, if that's the case, you know, we got to deal with the issue root and branch. Somehow, you know, and this is just, sometimes I can't, you know, they say that, you know, Americans are even Americans that matriculate into our most prestigious colleges are just poorly educated people. Yeah, because when you can just show people, you know, images of clear barbarism, things have clearly gone off the rails. You know, things that we can acknowledge are not from our religion. I saw the video, the woman in the back of the truck, she dead, they spitting on her, parading her through the street. The things have definitely gone way off. We're way off the course at this point. In terms of just rules of engagement, we're way off at this point. We can acknowledge that. But to use those images and to keep you to just get around the fact that this is an illegal occupation. Let's just keep talking about you know, how wild and uncouth, and let's just keep talking. You know, I actually liken it to, you know, when African Americans were enslaved in the American South. Although you had a number of suppressed slave rebellions, the ones that were successful, like Nat Turner's rebellion, bloody, women, children, bloody. It was bloody. Wasn't you know? It was regrettably. Yeah, it was. You know, it's not like, you know. And for someone to just say, yeah, well, let's look at what they did. They went into plantations. They killed women. They killed children. They killed, you know, non-military personnel. Would be a great distraction from enslavement itself. You know what I'm saying? It's like those things did happen. They're enslaved, right? It's a great distraction from enslavement itself. And I think and it's very easy to arouse the sentiments of people with images. It's like, oh man, they captured the elderly, they did this to women. And this is the Israeli propaganda strategy. Just keep talking about the horrific scale of what happened and how barbaric it was, without talking about, well, what's causing all of this? Yes.
So actually, I had like something to say actually about that. So, like for the first time, I posted something on my Instagram story about it to kind of raise awareness, and even in that, I guess like a couple of people mentioned and replied to my story and said, you know, they didn't even know what's happening to begin with. And just because it's on CNN for the first time is when, you know, Israel was attacked. But for like 75 years before, nothing.
You know, some people, you know, which it's crazy because some people really feel like, what's their problem, man? Like, why would they do this? Like, just live your life, man.
So like, I ask you a question like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, our role is like, right now, to talk about the system of the, but also, what would you say about like, you know, raising awareness?
Absolutely, man. Raise awareness around, and I think that, look, if we're being strategic, if you're seen as someone who's just biased, okay, you're Muslim, a lot of Palestinians are Muslim, That's really all there is here. It will detract, or it will take something from your credibility. On the other hand, if you say, look, we want to stop the carnage, we want to stop the bloodshed, we want to stop the violence. But I don't think stopping the violence is just about bombing Gaza and destroying Gaza. I think world leaders need to put pressure on Israel to do something about the occupation. That's where the pressure needs to be applied. Not, okay, we support Israel's right to defend itself. Come on. Come on. This is what you have. But بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين يا رب العالمين يا رب العالمين يا رب العالمين. We ask that you give safety and protection to all of the people of Palestine, Ya Rabbal Alameen, and that you bring about, a peaceful end to this conflict, Ya Rabbal Alameen, and that you give victory to our brothers and sisters in Gaza and the West Bank, Ya Rabbal Alameen. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين.